that sucked, Met fans. Once again, the Mets failed to add on runs. The early runs that we wanted, we got. We just couldn't get the runs later in the game that we usually get. And a couple of solo home runs, and of course, a former Met in Andres Jimenez has to, hit that nail in the coffin just a little bit harder. And look, good teams add insurance runs, and that's exactly what the Guardians did. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
I could be better given the circumstances. We're up here talking about a sweep, obviously. Quick vent session, which seems to be the common theme here for our Mets post games as of recent, especially this past week. So, was tuning in a little bit to your post game last night with Hector. Great stuff as usual. Great points. Really, it's right in front of our faces, Rob. Everything that's going wrong with this team is right in front of our faces. We get off to an early lead, and then we get stagnant. And it just can't happen if you want to win ball games at this level because teams will come back. And it just seems like there's such a lack of timely hitting with this team. And it's been extended for so long. So, really roundabout way to answer your question, but I'm doing well, but this team isn't. So, that's a
Yeah,
different story.
yeah. Well, we got this team that actually plays well, so I guess we got that in our hands. Um, yeah, you know, you talked about the timely hitting, and Hector brought it up on the roundtable, and then I reminded him what he said on the roundtable, and this is inconvenient home runs they seem to hit, right? Three solo shots. God forbid they hit a home run with somebody on base. We've talked about this many times on many shows. They don't hit multiple. They don't hit multi home runs. They don't hit 2-run homers, 3-run homers. It's rare. They hit a ton of solo home runs. I really want to check this. I am going to check it. As soon as I get the time, I'm going to check how many solo home runs have they hit out of the home runs they hit this year. I can assure you it's probably a higher number than a lot of people think. They don't hit multi home runs. They don't hit 2-3-run homers. They just don't, right? I mean, look how fast that can get you right back into a ball game. Look at Jimenez. What is that? His fourth home run of the year? Connected on one, boom, tie game in the sixth, and then they were off and running. And again, they had the momentum, the Guardians, in the sixth inning after that home run. And look what they did. They scored a run in the seventh, 2 runs in the eighth. Insurance runs, especially late in the game like that demoralizes any team. And it clearly, as soon as Jimenez hit that home run, did anybody believe the Mets were going to win that ball game? Because I didn't.
I didn't either at all. At all. It's bad. And like you said, it's timely hitting at this point too, right? I mean, you lay around and you get up to a 3-0 lead. And like you said, for other teams, it changes with one swing of the bat. But for the Mets, it changes with like 6, 7, 8 swings because they just don't conjure up the extra base hits or home runs with runners in scoring position, right? They'll put inefficient runs up on the board. And I'm not saying that Pete Alonso's solo home run in the first inning was meaningless. Like, I don't think we're trying to say that because you got to get out to a lead, and he did so in the first pitch of his at bat in the first inning, which is great. But it's like, what happens with all the other subsequent innings? Like, we talk about it all the time, giving your pitchers breathing room. And they did for Quintana, right? It was 3-0 lead. He only got yanked at like 70 pitches. He was only at 70 pitches, but he got yanked after the sixth inning, I believe. So, yeah, it's frustrating, man. There's like really not much for us to sit here and say time and time again about why this team is failing because everybody can realize what's happening on their screen. So, um, MBZ saying he's nitpicking Alonso again. That last at bat was definitely it was bad. He was overmatched. It was what 3 pitches, and like you said, it was good morning, good evening, good night, whatever you want, however you want to say it. It's exactly what it was. No, there's no timeliness to this offense. Mark Vientos has had a great series. Love the way
Yep.
he's swinging the bat. Jeff McNeil surprisingly homering in back-to-back games
Of
here.
course.
So other than that, though, it's boring baseball again. It's boring offense. They can't string hits together, and we're not even asking them to string hits together. We're asking them to get a timely hit. There's a difference. With 2 runners on, why don't we hit a bases clearing double? I'm not even asking for you to put it over the fence. Just hit me
Exactly.
a bases clearing double. That's it.
They don't do
It's
that.
bad, man.
Don't
It's
do that.
bad.
And that's the issue. Like it's not even just, I can bring up Alonso 150 times. Like, yes, he came up with a runner on second. What did he do? He hit a lowly fly ball to get Lindor to third today, right? That's a situation where I want to see him drive the ball in the gap. Like, the home run's nice. That's great. You start off the game with that. That's perfect. That's a good start. But it's after that. He went 1 for 4 today. He had 2 Ks in big moments and flied out softly to move the runner over to third base. Now there's 2 outs, and now you have to rely on, Brandon Nimmo, who also didn't do well today either, even though he's been very well. It's a lot of the same things over and over again. And again, I brought it up in a group chat. Once again, the core does not come through, right? Look at the bottom of the order. Jeff McNeil, Harrison Bader, right? Look at Mark Fields. He had a tough day today, right? Even DJ Stewart, right? These are the guys that are providing the offense for this team. You're not winning ball games when 7 through 9 is doing most of the job more than your 1 through 5. It's just, you're not going to win ball games. I don't care who you play. You're not going to win ball games. And that's the most frustrating part. And that's why the questions are what the questions are going to be and are right now that we all bring up. We all have different thoughts and opinions towards the core of each of those players, right? Everybody likes one more than the other. Everybody thinks it's this problem, this person's fault more than the others. But you put it all together, it's a shit show. And that's the issue.
Yeah, it is. It just feels like the Guardians had a lot of like firsts this series, especially this game. Like, how many dudes that went up there and got their first hit or got their first hit in however many at bats, first hit and however many at bats against the Mets, like Andres Jimenez, who was 0 for 18 in his career ever since being traded by the Mets. So listen, that's just obviously an excuse. That's just kind of like a coincidental thing. I'm not using that as an excuse. This team has zero excuses. They have zero excuses. We're not giving them any excuses because you go off to a lead and you get out to a lead here and you lose this ball game. Listen, Rob, like you said, like this is the epitome of Mets baseball right now. Andres Jimenez hits a 3-run home run. Okay, tie game, brand new game. It's like 0-0. But everything as a Mets fan and as a Mets player, when you look into that dugout, when the camera crew cuts to the dugout, it's lifeless. There's no life. There's no signs of life. There's no signs of coming back. There's no reset button being hit. It's like, oh, we gave up the lead. Here you go. Why don't you take the lead now? So it's like, I don't with that type of mentality, with that type of lifelessness, what do we honestly expect? And what do they expect? Throwing an iPad in the dugout or throwing a cooler in the dugout is going to change something? You would hope that something like that, like a throwing the chair incident from a couple of seasons ago, that fires you up. But it's like this team. I was thinking about this, like, and there's no stats around it, but I was like, what if we create a stat called like X dog or like F dog? This team got no dog in them. They have no dog in them.
No.
There's no measurement to that, but you can just tell, just looking at the play. There's no dog in this team, and I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah, I brought this up on the round table. Where's the Jalen Brunson of this team? Where's the Chris Kreider of this team that puts their team on their back when they need them the most, right? When they need that big performance, and again, football baseball is every single day, so you don't expect that one guy to do it every single night. But again, this is a moment where you want I don't care who it is, Nimmo, Lindor, Alonso. I don't think it's McNeil, but one of those 3 guys. Somebody's got to stand up in front of this team and be like, guys, including myself and all of us, we got to figure this thing out. Because if you don't, a lot of people in this clubhouse right now won't be here. And nobody wants that. So, like, I keep on going back to it. It's a problem because I don't know, if it's the lack of leadership that we heard rumors about for years, this going back to Luis Rojas managing, to Buck Showalter, because the manager can lead as much as he can, right? Buck Showalter was clearly the leader of his team in 2022, right? But the manager leadership doesn't last. You need a player that you can, like, I can go to every good team and I can say that guy's the leader of a team. He might be 1A, 1 and 1A with maybe 2 guys, but you know who they are. You can poll 100 Met fans everybody will give you different answers. Some will say Nimmo. Hector said Nimmo, right? He's the leader, right? Some of us believe that Nimmo should be the leader, right? Some might say Alonso. Some might even think Lindor because of the money. There's so many, and that's the problem. Like, I feel like somebody's afraid to step up in front of the team because they don't want, it's like, I don't know if I'm the guy because I don't want to think that they think I'm the guy, but he might think he's the guy. Like, I don't know if that's a toxic situation or it's just skittish, if that makes sense. Like, there's a skittish way of moving forward to become a leader that this team needs, I think.
It makes you question, like we said way back when in spring training and all of our off-season streams that we've done, going into this 2020 season. It makes you question the camaraderie of this team, and a lot of people like to blow right past it, right? I feel like the Dodgers, with how talented they are, they're probably not the most tight-knit unit, but the Braves are a different example. They have talent and they have the camaraderie. It's not a fluke that many players get into that Braves clubhouse and they come out and do interviews and saying, "Wow, I've never experienced anything like this." Because you know what's also funny about that Braves team is that every single time they happen to be on my TV, let's say someone strikes out with a runner in scoring position and it's either 1 out or 2 outs. The guy right after them picks them up, right? Or if they don't, and if they fail that inning, the same situation that arises again for said player that struck out, he will take advantage and capitalize with the next opportunity. This team does not capitalize on any of their opportunities. If this lineup capitalized on only a fraction of the opportunities that they've been given this year, they'll probably be at 500 right now. There's like 4 wins waiting for them out there this season that could have been right there for the taking if they capitalized on just a fraction of all the opportunities cumulative that they have had. But they haven't. And at the end of the day, someone has to take ownership of that. Someone has to take responsibility for that. And it's going to be the manager. It's going to be the front office because that's the easy people to blame. And obviously, us here as fans are going to blame the players as well. So, what is this management going to do with these players? Now, listen, there's still fans out there and there's still Mets fans out there. More power to them because honestly, when you look at we are trying to be objective here and looking at a large enough sample size over 49 games with this team to make a conclusion about what the trajectory that they are going to have for the rest of the season, right? Like you said, time and time again, we are evaluating the first half. Well, first half of it's almost over, or it already is over. So there's going to be some hard decisions being made, and honestly, if no one's going to step up and take ownership, if things aren't going to change productivity wise, then changes are going to happen. And if you're a fan out there saying that it's 162 games, baseball is a long season, we know that. Everyone knows that. I've been saying that it's 162 games. I understand that, but the problem is when the offense or when the front office made the decisions that they made this offseason, they weren't playing it for 162 games of evaluation. Not for the core guys and not for the role players and not for all the guys that they gave 1-year deals to. Mm-hmm. Because those are trade chips at the end of the day. And those are salvageable, flippable players that they can get a return on to build assets for the future. So, like I said, the Mets don't have a luxury of seeing how this pans out over 162. They didn't have that luxury last season. So what makes us think with the moves that were made this offseason, they're going to have that luxury this year? It doesn't make any sense to me. So I understand it. I understand the sort of, I don't want to say false positivity because honestly, baseball's hard enough. Having any sort of positivity when things don't go your way is kind of important, but it's also important not to be in denial. And I think that there's a fine line between those two things, in my opinion, as a fan.
Yeah. 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 I 100% agree. It's hard to say anything else there. Like, it's, we knew going into the season that this was a 90-game season for the New York Mets, right? I think it's 90 or 91 games before the trade deadline. That's how many games you play before the deadline. Stearns set it up. And look, Hector said it best that on the roundtable. He challenged not only the 1-year contract guys, but he also challenged the core of this team, saying, if you guys do what you got to do and do your job, you will have my blessing at the trade deadline and do what we need to do to get better. But are we going to hear interviews after during the trade deadline from Mets players saying, "Oh, I can't believe they did that. I thought they believed in us." Well, you give them no reason to believe in us, because that really pissed me off last year with that team, because Alonso did it, Nimmo did it. Lindor was kind of like a team guy saying, for the most part, because he was kind of like back and forth, but he said, I believe in this ownership, and I believe in this organization and what they're doing. I want to hear that, but you can't. There's nobody to blame but the person you're looking to. You're looking in the mirror. Like, you have to look yourself in the mirror, in the face, and be like, hey, I am the problem. And that goes for all 26 guys on the roster. Like, if a fire sale happens, they can't blame everybody else in the organization. They got to blame themselves because they didn't do the job.
Ibby's kind of making me crack up in the comment section here. Yeah, no, I agree with you. But we can sit here and talk about this for 30 minutes, Rob. We can sit here and talk about how this team is lifeless. Like, we've said this time and time again. Let's talk about something that actually happened in the game. Do you think that Tristan McKenzie's pitch was actually meant to hit Harrison Bader? Because you know what? At first, I was kind of like, and I just want to transition this just to make it a little bit more like of a fun stream, because we spent 16 minutes already talking about how lifeless we are. We know it, and we're not going to say anything otherwise until they prove us wrong, right? At the end of the day, Tristan McKenzie's pitch, at first I was like, Harrison Bader has this weird thing of always turning to pitchers when it clearly isn't intentional. But then I took a look at the pitch, and then I realized that Tristan McKenzie hasn't really hit any batters this season so far, and that pitch was nowhere near the strike zone at any point from which he threw it in. So I think Harrison Bader at that point had a definite gripe, and he had every right to have a gripe there, because that definitely looked like a little intentional. Even Ron said it during the broadcast as well. But what did he do? He went down there, stole a base, and the next at bat, he hit a home run off of a hanging slider, I believe, up in the zone. So I was just curious to get your take on that.
Yeah, it's funny because I was watching it with my dad, and I turned to my dad. I'm like, "Oh, that was intentional." Like 100%. It wasn't a thought in my mind. Like he was pissed off. I think the way Jeff McNeil kind of ran the bases, I think he got a little upset by that, and he goes, "Okay, well, I'm gonna take it out on your next teammate." And look, that's baseball. At least that's the baseball that I grew up with. Like, he didn't go for his head. He went for his ass. Right. That's exactly where you want to hit a guy to send a message. And he did that. And then Bader was like, yeah, you hit me? All right, I'll take one, 410 feet to left. Right. So, that was beautiful baseball in a nutshell over a couple of innings. So yeah.
Did that happen after Jeff McNeil's home run? What do you mean by Jeff McNeil running the bases?
Well, because Jeff McNeil hit the home run, and then he hit Bader right after that.
Okay, so you're saying, because was McNeil trotting at all in your eyes,
the ball kind of bounced weirdly, or like in right field they have like the poles for the fans above the fence, and it bounced on the pole and it looked like it hit the wall and bounced back into play. So McNeil was like running past first base, and then looking around for the umpire to make a call, and then it was weird because it seemed like he was it was showboating a little bit, but I think he was confused that if they called it a home run or not, and he kind of, after he turned first base, he kind of took his time after he realized it was a home run. So I mean, maybe I don't know, but again, it's baseball. Maybe McKenzie felt some type of way. Maybe they have a history that we don't know about, right? He was with the Yankees. Who knows? So
yeah,
I don't know. I like to see baseball like that. I miss it.
I was wondering if that was intentional or not, first of all, and I was wondering if they had a history. But second of all, the Mets definitely had to have felt like it was intentional, because Quintana drilled one of their batters a couple innings later too, which was a clear retaliation. But you know what? No benches clearing, no umpire warnings. That's classic baseball, like you said. So yeah, for sure, absolutely. I was just curious because that was honestly probably the most exciting part of the game for me, to be honest with you.
Was. and you know what? That's a shout out to both managers on Cleveland and Mendoza for the Mets, because you know what? They both sent the message. They didn't have benches clearing. They both understood the situation, and that's how baseball is supposed to be. You send your message and you go about your business. Now, if somebody would have been headhunting, then the benches would have cleared, right? It was no fuss, no foul. Both hit it in the rib or the belt and ass area, exactly where you need to send the message, and they did. You go about your business, and at the end of the day, the Guardians got the last laugh, right? So they swept us. And
Yeah, they
well,
did.
no, I mean, coming back home now, right? Hector brought this up in a post game, like, let's because he's like he's gonna be going to most likely going to the game on Friday. He's like, it would be nice to have a coming back home with the win. Now, I think somebody put in the chat, I think we lost 20 out of our last 29, if I'm not mistaken. If that's true, that sounds about right. That's bad. And now we're coming home to face a couple of West Coast teams in the Giants, Dodgers, and Diamondbacks. Two of those teams are a couple of, are neck and neck with us around the wild card area. I know that's silly to say, but it's going to matter. Like the Mets can completely be buried at the end of May and June. Who cares about the June swoon? It'd be too late no matter what they do. So, look, this 10-game homestand is do or die for this team, because after that 10-game stretch, there's about 28 games until the deadline. That's going to be a problem.
First of all, like Joel said in the chat, this is being streamed to both of our YouTube channels, so hit that thumbs up and subscribe for us. If you're new here, hit the subscription button. We thoroughly appreciate it. Did you just say the Dodgers, Giants, and Diamondbacks? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not gonna even say it. Anyways, Ibby in the chat, that's funny. Ibby in the chat saying he knows at least it's 14 of the last 20 are losses for the Mets, which
So
is
you're
just
saying we're bad? Maybe.
yeah. We have to say that this is a bad ball club right now. There's like I know a lot of people, or there's select few people, because I think everybody in this chat right now that's voicing their opinions like knows in some way, shape, or form that this is a bad ball club, right? And I think that honestly, I'm going to stick true to my word, because I think Oliver said it way up in the chat talking about potential of this team. The potential is a lot greater than what they're showing, and that's what the most frustrating part about it is for me, because I've said it time and time again that this potential of this team is just like on paper is a lot better. But at the end of the day, on paper, whatever we have on paper doesn't really matter. You can throw that out the window. The 2023 Mets were a talented team on paper, and look where that got us. So it really doesn't matter. But yeah, coming up, this homestand, I don't know what to say. Those are tough opponents. Those are tough NL West opponents. The Diamondbacks, the Giants. I mean, the Giants, they give us fits. I'm not looking forward to that series at all. And the Dodgers are the Dodgers, right? The Mets were lucky enough to take a series against them out in LA, but that was a completely different team than what we're watching right now. So I don't really know what the actual answer is here, because we've given you all the answers. We've given you it. Hit with runners in scoring position. Answers. It is not rocket science. The Mets players know that they should be hitting with runners in scoring position. We've made lineup changes to try to put us in a better position to do so. Brandon Nimmo also striking out, because I will hold Brandon Nimmo accountable. I love Brandon Nimmo, and I think that this is the right lineup decision to make, but he also struck out with, I believe, a runner on third base and 2 outs. Pete Alonso in that last inning looked horrendous with Francisco Lindor on second. And Francisco Lindor himself snapping a 0 for 47 streak in at bats without an extra base hit. That's his second longest of his Mets tenure so far, the longest being in 2021. That is a problem. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. So all across the board, each one accountability. That's
and
it.
where is that accountability? Because again, Mendoza can do whatever he can only do so much, right? There's got to be accountability. Now, it might be individual accountability where they're sitting themselves in the room by themselves and being accountable for themselves, but you have to be accountable as a whole, because I feel like too many of these guys take accountability of their own, and it's more towards a personal ego type of responsibility and accountability, not towards the team. Like, oh, I have been bad, I've been hurting this team. It's like, no, I've been bad, I got to be better. Like, no, Lindor, because he said that a couple of times this year already. Like, no, you got to be better for your team, right? Because when you don't do well, guys behind you are going to struggle because they're going to have to do more because you're lacking in the offensive categories. And I wanted to bring up somebody in the comment, Bredex, I think that's what it is. Imagine having this as your evaluation year. What to evaluate? Oh, this is the perfect evaluation year. You know why? Because David Stearns has no connection to any of these guys. The 1 year deal guys, not really a connection, right? He hasn't given any long-term deals to anybody. And that's including Alonso, that's including possibly McNeil with a tradable contract. Lindor and Nimmo, I still think that's hard to do, but their evaluation here is exactly what Stearns is doing right now, based on the fact that not giving an extension to Alonso, right? Not really getting any long-term deals in here to give him options at the deadline. And let's be honest, to have a ton of money coming off the books in the offseason so he can implant this team with his guys, his philosophy. Because I don't know if Alonso is Stearns' guy or McNeil is a Stearns guy. I don't know. We'll find out, right? If he gives Alonso a contract, we know he believes in him. And that's perfectly fine because I trust David Stearns. Right? Don't evaluate David Stearns off of this year because he has to put a lot of glue and tape on this team because there wasn't like if you look at the sign-ins, the bigger sign-ins. Now I'm not talking about Yamamoto because they did what they could as best they could to get Yamamoto, right? Other guys, the other guys that signed, they haven't really had good seasons, pitching or offense. So it's not like you would have got those guys and it would have been a different story.
Minus Imanaga. Imanaga's having a pretty good season.
Yeah, but you know what? It is interesting though because like no team was really going after. Like it felt like the Cubs jumped out of nowhere and got him. Like he was always going there for some reason because that was the
I
only
think he
team.
wanted to always go there. I think it's what it
Yeah.
came out. Yeah.
So it's like I don't know if the Mets were so focused on Yamamoto. And again, kudos to the Mets. They gave the highest offer. You can't do anything when the player doesn't come back to you for a counter offer. What are you going to do? Right? You can't do anything about that. So that was the first time Stearns and Cohen as a duo did what they could for the player that they really wanted. Now, this offseason is going to be another one, right? There's a couple of guys out there that we know that the Mets probably need, number one, and are they going to go the different route? But I wanted to get your opinion about not who cares about the offseason at this point because it doesn't matter, right? The trade deadline, who cares right now? We still got about 40 plus games to go with that. Do you believe this homestand is going to determine the rest of the games until the deadline? Do you think this is the make or break time for the New York Mets? Either or.
As in if from a front office perspective, yes, absolutely. This is the home stretch that either tells you if you're going to be buyers or sellers at the deadline. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was thinking the same thing. Because it's funny. It's around the same time last year where the Mets had a very bad late May or a decent May, a late May, and went into June 1st in a wild card spot. They were the third wild card team last year on June 1st. And then it unraveled in Philadelphia, and the Mets never got back up on their feet. I wonder if this is going to happen again, where they're going to kind of have a pretty decent homestand, get right back into some type of mix, and then they're going to fall apart. I just hope
But you
that
know
doesn't
what?
happen.
But you know what, Rob? And I know it's a hard thing to just like say here, but I don't think David Stearns is naive enough to, even if this team is like 4 or 5 games out of a wild card or just like hanging in there, I don't think he's naive enough to believe that this is a good team and it's salvageable. I still think he goes forward with whatever his plan is. Like, there's no convincing anybody right now, let alone David Stearns, that this team is good. And you're going to tell me after everything that we've seen, and if they go out there and have a bad homestand here coming up, that, and let's just say after this homestand, they go on like a 9-2 run or whatever, the next 11, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You still can't erase that this is a bad ball club. Like, one run changes a lot, and I always say that, but does it change the mindset of David Stearns? Like, does that make sense of what I'm trying to say? Like, you can only fool fans in the front office so much, even with a nice little streak that you go on. At the end of the day, it might still be time to cut your losses. Now, obviously, we're here rooting for the team and we're rooting for wins, right, over losses. But I just find it hard to believe, even if they do find a little streak after this homestand, right? Because this homestand, I just said it, this is the deciding factor for this front office, bar none. Because these opponents are tough, and if they have a bad homestand, the writing's on the wall at that point, if it's not already. But
Yeah.
I just don't think that there's like much the Mets will do unless they completely just wow us out of nowhere and completely become a different team. They're not going to fool anybody to thinking that this is a good team. You know what I mean?
Okay. Let me give you two ultimatums, right? Number one, the $1 million question is David Stearns going to get duped by this team if they play well over the next 15 games or so, right? I don't think so, but that is the $1 million question. The second thing is, what do the Mets have to do in this homestand to make you say, huh, this team might actually be better than they played this season? What type of homestand do you need, record-wise?
What is it? You said 10 game? Is it 10 game homestand?
Yep.
8-2.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna go with.
8-2. That's it. That's it.
And you know what? I don't want it to be like like a weird, like how you get that 7-3 10 game run, but it wasn't really like eye opening. It was just like a couple of a little luck here and there, and you kind of got a couple of those wins. I want to see 7-3, 8-2, like beat down wins. Like I want you to go and beat up the Giants. I want to have a hard fought series against the Dodgers and try to take 2 out of 3 against one of the best teams in baseball. And then the Diamondbacks, who are struggling right now, and you got 4 against them. Take 3 out of 4. Like I want to see you taking control over a series. The Mets haven't really done that. Even when they went on that 12 out of 15 stretch, they never felt like they were running over people to win series. They were kind of like hanging on for dear life. Oh, we just won that ball game. Like I want to see dominance, because you can go 7-3 and 8-2, and it was lackluster. Like it was like you kind of like stringing to you, biting your nails for these last couple of innings because the games are this close. I want dominant performances during this 10-game stretch. I want to see what the players tell us, that they're better than what they're showing. We hear it from all the players during post-game interviews all the time. Well, here's your time to have dominating performances, right? Lindor, Alonso, Nimmo. I want you guys to take over a homestand, right? I want to see a couple curtain calls for big games, big home runs. Show me some dominance, because we really haven't seen that since the middle of 2022, and it's frustrating. It's freaking frustrating, and I think that's what they need more than anything else. They need to make us believe.
How many times have we called for it, Rob? How many times have we called for it? How many times are we going to keep calling for it? I hear you. We can keep saying it, but
I know.
I mean,
That's
it. It either happens or it doesn't. And we all know what this offense turns into, like MEC's saying at Citi Field. The splits are horrendous. I love how Gary was saying Narvaez going into this game was a 300 hitter on the road, and he was like 0 for 20 at Citi Field so far this season.
30 at home. Like
oh my goodness.
There must be some like voodoo or something. Like, who buries something in the Citi Field like skeleton to like have this type of performances at home? It makes no sense at all.
Chris, I don't even have an answer for it, Rob. I don't even have an answer for it.
So let's end this post game with your final thoughts and whatever else you got going on. I know you got the Rangers. They're playing tonight, so I'm not sure if you're doing a post game, right?
Yes, post game on the channel after the Rangers game tonight. Hopefully, people in the chat, you are Rangers fans in congruence to being a Mets fan, because if you're not, then I feel bad for you. I have the Rangers to look forward to tonight, right? And that's just what it is. And I know you do as well, Rob. So I'll be on the Blue Shirts Banner postgame show. We'll be live immediately after the clock strikes zeros, maybe about 5 minutes after the game. Hopefully the Rangers take a nice little 1-0 lead in the Eastern Conference Finals here against the Florida Panthers. So let's go Rangers in that regard. And you know what, man? As much as we talk about this team and how bad they are, we're still rooting for them, man. I'm going to sit here and watch Mets games. I'm going to keep watching Mets games, and we're going to keep rooting for them. And we're going to keep talking about them on this channel, regardless if it's win or lose. It doesn't really matter. We're going to be up here because this is what we signed up to do. And that's it. That's really it. We signed up to do it, and that's what we're doing. So shout out to the Rangers. I'm not going to give a shout out to the Mets, but I really do want them to have a good homestand, man. This will be a great little consolation prize, I guess is what I call it so far.
Okay.
And maybe like a sneak peek. I don't know. Like if they had to turn it around at any point, which should have been like last week or the week before that, it should be right now. Because a lot of players, I feel like, are starting to feel that pressure that they know.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they know, right? There's chatter, whether it's with them directly or not. Like they know that they are out of here on the next flight, wherever their destination is, come trade deadline time, if they're not turning it around. And you know what? And I heard you, and I want to make this point as my final thought. I heard you yesterday on the post game show with Hector talking about Alonso, talking about if he does somehow stay on this team post trade deadline, and the Mets offer him up whatever contract it is, and another team matches it, that he will be on his first flight to whatever team offers him that contract. I agree with you. I agree with you.
You said it in
Because
the
right
chat.
now, and Alonso, I don't want to speak for Alonso, not going to do that. But it just seems like, and I had my question marks going back to last season when those sort of contract talks and whatever were going on at first. And we were kind of speculating what he was saying to the media and if it was true or not, right? Whether he wants to be a lifelong Met, whether his actions were going to support his words to the media. Because these guys in the media can tell you what you want to hear all day long, but it's up to them to go ahead and follow through. So listen, time will tell. Let's see if he even gets a chance to prove that to us if he's not out of here by the deadline. But I agree with you. I have my reservations with that. But nonetheless, listen, we'll be here. So bear with us. Let's go Mets as always. This is going to be a brutal homestand. I'm not going to lie to you. These are tough opponents. And with the way this team is going, anything can happen, obviously. But I don't have my hopes up. Like the Mets have forced me to temper my expectations. That's really all I can say at this point. They've forced me to temper my expectations. So every single time I watch a game now, I don't really have an expectation of winning. I'm just hoping to see good baseball. I'm hoping to see clean baseball. And it really hasn't been that way here over the last couple of weeks. And it's a shame. But other than that, we appreciate y'all being here. Thank you so much. I actually got to rush on out of here. Got some commitments to take care of, but hit that thumbs up, all that good stuff. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for venting with us. And I guess until the next therapy session, we'll see you all in a little bit.
Absolutely. Mets surprise us on this homestand and make us try to believe a little bit. With that said, another Mets post-game show in the books. Chris, have a great day. Let's go Rangers, and we'll see you next time, guys. Have a good night.
Good night. See ya.